All right. I am recording. I am James.
And I'm John.
And this is Movie Poop Shoots, where we're just a couple assholes talking shit about some movies. But anyways, man, just a quick introduction to us, since this is going to be our first video that anyone's ever going to see of us. And we had a couple on the way, but, that's neither here nor there. But, yeah, we plan to basically sit here and talk about everything movie, from how to create a movie. A little bit of background about me. I work in the movie business. I started out in doing lighting. Actually, to really take it further back, I started out going to school at the Art Institute of Las Vegas for video film production. And then I got into lighting, started working for JI Lighting, got into lighting, started doing lighting on a couple of movies. My first movie that I was able to jump on lighting to was The Mustang. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's pretty dope. Then I found myself doing art department, which is what I currently do.
Yeah, and I am a comic artist, concept artist, illustrator. Been working in various aspects of all those kinds of genres, as well as advertising. Currently working for a large entertainment company right now. Me and James, we've known each other for 20 years now.
Probably more than that.
And
about 20 years, yeah.
And interestingly enough, we both ended up working in the entertainment business, which is kind of strange, but it's really cool. And though we worked in different aspects of it, we thought it'd be cool to show some of the stuff we know how to do and work on. And today I was going to show you guys some a character design that we came up with. And while I work on the character design, James will tell you a little bit about how we came up with it,
Yes.
as well as what you would do in a real movie to make these kinds of things, in the practical effects department, in the practical, clothing and whatnot department. And I'm telling you how we would design it. So hopefully that's helpful to all you guys out there. And hopefully you enjoy it.
Right. Basically, to really kind of summarize this up, I was sitting here thinking about why we're doing this channel. And, we're creative people, and we know there's a lot of creative people in the world. And while we're not like on the super high end professional level, granted, we've done professional movies and worked in the professional business, we wanted to show that there is an outlet, and there, if you want to create, just do it. Just start creating. And that's basically what we're doing here. Currently, because of the current situation going on in the world right now, a lot of the entertainment business is kind of under wraps right now. Like, there's not a lot of things being created as far as movies and new TV shows working out. There is a lot of animated things coming up, but as far as this type of work goes, we've just kind of come to a standstill. But I think what this channel really provides is a way to show you that, hey, even if you're just at home and you're not doing anything, you can still create, because creativity lives in everything. And these are the times to actually start creating. And who knows, man, maybe somebody watches this channel and sees the ideas that we've got going on. And if you have anything that you want to elaborate on or collaborate with, or maybe you just want to add to it, leave it in the comments below. Give us a description. Tell us what you do. You just want to join in on some. You just want to jump in on a conversation. Go ahead, man. Just, DM us, and we'll leave all our other information somewhere in a link somewhere, whether it be down below or on the screen. We're learning this just as we go along, but it's okay, man. That's what we're here for. And really, we want to see our progression in this, and teaching other people, how to actually do some of these things. And maybe some of you guys teach us some of the things that out there, and we all get together and become the new creators of the world.
Yep.
Because I feel like that's what we're all here for. You know what I mean? Right now is the time to find our lane. And there's no time like the present, man. There's no time.
And people think you got to be kind of at this certain level to create. The truth is you don't. There's tons of jobs even at the most entry level that'll pay you probably better than your minimum wage job that anyone's going to start off with.
Yeah.
Or it's going to pay just as good. So then you might as well get the experience and the thing you're trying to do. And down the road, there's a, it's the kind of career that can build.
Yes.
So today we're working on a character design. For all you guys who don't know what character design is this is something like that they would use in movies or video games and stuff like that, where essentially they're going to design a character. They're going to design their clothing. They're going to design, probably with the look of the character, they're going to want to give a little insight into the attitude, into the character of the character. The choice of the shot and the choice of the angle is really important. This is like a really strong, imposing shot.
Mm-hmm.
She's very confident. Also has good form of silhouette right here. And this is kind of like a little sketch here to show you guys what the anatomy is kind of like and how kind of things flow together. This is the line, signifying contrapposta, signifying the weight bearing leg essentially, which is really important. And when I was designing this character, while I render the face a little bit more, James, can you tell us a little bit of what we were thinking about? This is a character that James was working on for a story he's writing and working on. And can you tell us a little bit about the premise?
Absolutely. So the other day, I come up with an idea where, I feel like I just wanted to kind of create my own world where I feel like with a lot of stories, especially a lot of things that are out right now, people are really designing worlds.
Yeah.
Where a lot of things go on, and it really opens up the ability to be able to tell a story, because you could tell multiple stories within this world. You can create multiple series. You can create like a multitude of characters. So I started coming up with the premise of this idea of this world kind of after this 2020. So I feel like, as everyone feels like, 2020 has been probably one of the worst years that any of us have ever lived through, unless you're like someone who's lived through the Great Depression or something along the lines of that, been to any of these wars or anything like that. But I feel like as of right now, this is just one of the worst years that we have all experienced, that's going on right now. And, take that with a grain of salt, but I felt like, well, this is a time where we can really create something. So I've started thinking about a world, and I was like, well, what would this world be like after all of this is going to go? Because no matter what's going on right now, the world is going to be different. So we don't know how it's going to be different. So I decided, well, why not create my own little world in it? And I've decided, what is the worst possible thing that can happen? And maybe it's not the worst possible thing, but maybe we really do come to some kind of like apocalypse. There's lots of memes going on right now. Or a bunch of people are saying, I can imagine, it's like, I wouldn't be surprised if aliens came and touched down right now. It wouldn't surprise me for 2020. So I started thinking about that, and I started doing a little research on like what us as human, or just what can the world, possibly survive, or like what would be a really catastrophic thing that has happened. So I really tried to keep it on a real basis, because we all know, asteroids have actually hit the earth. There's lots of speculation on that's what killed the dinosaurs. I feel like there are a multitude of things that killed the dinosaurs. And in research of it, like I found out like there's multiple timelines. So within that, this world takes place 1,000 years after a comet has struck at the end of the year of 2020.
So you're saying essentially that like a comet that killed the dinosaurs, is coming this year. In your story. In the story.
It comes this year.
Cool.
And basically creates a new world.
Okay. In what way? Because I follow you, but what do you mean?
So basically,
like it wipes everything out, or it wipes most of everything out.
It wipes most of everything out. You know what I mean? There's a lot of speculation that people are talking about, or that a lot of paleontologists are talking about, that dinosaurs, a lot of different dinosaurs come at different time periods. You know what I mean? Like within millions of years from each other. In those periods, there have been comets that have hit the Earth, and basically whatever was going on in the world at that particular time, it changed the course of life on the planet at that particular point in time.
Sure.
A lot of people is like, oh, well, it wiped everything out. Well, technically not, because life prevailed. So I feel like, so taking,
I heard it wiped out something like 70% of all like above water kind of creatures or something like that.
Exactly. I'll have to look back on the statistics and things. Or not statistics, but
if we get it wrong, just leave it in the comments.
Anything that we get wrong, mind you, I'm free balling here, you know what I'm saying? I'm just throwing ideas out there. But to really kind of hone it in, it's a comet hits the earth. In my mind, for whatever reason, the comet struck in a place kind of similar to where Africa was, and it basically divides Africa, creating new continents.
Oh, cool.
On the planet. And
kind of like a reverse Pangea thing.
Kind of a reverse Pangea, exactly. And cool. So now, a lot of the world is broken up into these new continents. It raised the water levels because it pushed everything. Earthquakes actually cracked, the whole continent in half. Granted, that may or may not be able to happen. They can't actually prove that because they actually really don't know exactly what would happen. Depending on the certain sizes, they can only give projections, which can only come so far. Every other event that comes within that, is kind of up for speculation, which gives us room to decide on what this world is actually going to be like. So, we're going to.
James, do you like this one or that one better?
Which one? Say it again.
Can you see it switching or no?
Yeah. I like the darker one better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with the darker.
Cool.
So basically this whole entire story concept takes 1,000 years after, or takes place 1,000 years after 2020. So we're in 3020.
Okay.
And a lot has happened. And so we came up with the idea for this character that due to the new weather systems and the new patterns of how life is going to be after the fact, that this comet has hit this earth, that this girl's family, her lineage dates back. Everybody's lineage is going to somehow date back to 2020 because it's not some, it's like, that is what we have record of. And that's what we're finding.
It's kind of like the golden age, like in America, how everything's going back to like ancient Greece and ancient Rome, like how we're like a republic.
Correct.
And how we have like a democracy. Democracy came from Greece, from the demes, the communities of Greece.
Exactly. And so it's basically we're figuring everything out, and it's like the people that possibly survived those particular events. Kind of brought some of that heritage with them. And so we based this character, her family lineage dates back all the way to Los Angeles. During, 2020 and before that. And we came up with the idea that, some of her earliest ancestors was the mayor of Los Angeles at the time. And so now Los Angeles is no longer, it's no longer exactly what it is as the Los Angeles we know today. And from records that they have, they now call it Lost Angels, because they believe that's exactly what it was supposed to be.
And also it's kind of bigger, right? Like you were saying,
so instead of
California, and that's kind of the way people think about California too, is like everything's Los Angeles,
Yes.
They think
everything's LA, even though that there's many more cities to California, you know what I mean? It's one of the biggest states that we have. Everyone equates it with LA or the Bay Area, you know what I mean? But more or less LA, because there's a lot that goes on there. So I feel like that would be a place, and thinking of it in let's just say, because I actually don't know the mayor of LA or anything like that. It was
it's more about the story, right?
Yeah, it's more about the story. It just kind of came up,
No, I think it's cool.
But he kind of instilled this royalty kind of aspect into his lineage going forward. And now all of Los Angeles owns most of the United States. Not all of
Yeah.
it, but most of it.
Probably like the Western territory kind of thing, right?
Yeah, like probably even further into that. You know what I mean?
Like to, like up to Texas or something, right?
Yeah, they're just like a big portion of it. And
Yeah.
it's no longer called Los Angeles, it's called Lost Angels. The city of
Yeah.
Lost Angels. As, you know, kind of the nickname for what Los Angeles actually is. It's just now
Sure.
that's what it's taking its time on. And
Well, I think Los Angeles means the Angels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, her whole family in this time are royalty. They you know, and we're kind of mixing a little bit with the old with the new, you know.
Yeah.
So if you think a catastrophic event that would happen like this asteroid hitting the earth would cut off most of the communication, which means we would have to rebuild the technology.
Yeah.
You know,
We'd have to.
that was once in our world. Now, who's to say what technology would last, what wouldn't, you know, this or
some
that.
stuff would be better, some stuff would be worse, right? Like
Exactly. So I feel like that maybe definitely in her time, they definitely do have technology, but maybe it's still kind of borderline primitive. You know,
and see, that was the kind of cool thing that I started thinking about is like, is thinking that whole thing of like what some stuff would be new, some stuff would be old, like what would it be like? And, you know, my mind's going everywhere, but I'm thinking, you know, and the thing we had thought about a lot was Rome, right? Like ancient Rome, because, you know, you kind of get the idea of like the knights in modern times. I don't know. I feel like you see that come up from time to time.
Yeah.
But I think Roman times in the future, I've never even, you know, maybe just Mad Max in the Battle Dome.
Right.
But this is even a little different. But I'm, you know, the way I'm thinking of it, it's like an Escalade limo being, you know, drawn by a horse carriage. You know, it's like somewhere like where it's mashed between the two. You know, it's kind of like, just as a rough drawing, it's kind of like, here's your Escalade, and then you got some horses pulling it. You know, real like only 2 horsepower. You know, or you could have more horses and it's more horsepower because it's a horse per horsepower.
I wonder if actual cars, actual motorized vehicles would even exist within this time.
No, that's what I mean. Like it would be literally drawn by horses. Like horses would be carrying the body of a Escalade.
Nice.
I
like it. I like it.
So it'd be 4 horsepower, you know?
Yeah.
And then you feed it grass. Cook, you know?
Because the question is, and I don't know, maybe someone out there would actually know the answer to this.
Yeah.
If a comet hit the Earth like that, right?
Yeah. This is one for the scientists, right?
We're already draining our fossil fuels as much as it is right now. You know what I mean? Would that create more fossil fuel for us to be able to, you know, do cars? Or do you think it would go more electric? Like, would people still have some of the basic knowledge in what we already have to start building, probably just continue on with the electric cars? I like to think that someone like Elon Musk would survive a catastrophic event like this.
Ooh, that's interesting.
So he would have the knowledge to be able to kind of put that into play. You know what I mean? Like those type of great minds, I'm sure they'd go through great lengths to try to make sure that they were taken care of.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting that maybe another city somewhere else, like within this world, is highly advanced. Maybe they kept the technology to themselves.
Yeah.
And I know we bounce around, you know, just as a disclaimer, we're going to be bouncing around a lot within this story because there's actually no story right now. We're developing it. We're developing the land. We're developing the idea of it. And a huge part of being creative, I personally feel like, and I see this a lot, is a lot of people just already want things to be done, but don't want to necessarily go through the process of what it takes to get there. You know what I mean?
And as far as from a artist standpoint, a lot of times we'll be brought in at the very beginning. You know, we'll be like the second person. Like the first person's probably like the writer, and then the second person's probably us to draw some stuff up, and then that probably feeds back into, they show it back to the writer, and that gives them some ideas, and then they start going back at it.
Exactly.
So like you're saying, it's not kind of like from 1 all the way to 0. It's kind of 1 to 10 to 4 to 7 to 10. And that's kind of really how it all works, you know?
It is. It
And
is.
you know, and they're asking for revisions, and they're asking for changes, and they're asking for a million different things and a million different looks.
It's very interesting because when I work on set, right,
Mhm.
I'm never normally a part of this particular thing.
Yeah.
Or at least when I was on the lighting side, I would never really see too much of this concept part. But when I got to the art department, like especially when I was working on Hell's Kitchen, and even though that's a TV show, right? And you think,
Sure.
oh, well, there's not a lot going on there. There actually is a great deal going on behind the scenes there. And like, it's like people think of these ideas and they conceptualize these ideas. And then us being the art department, like I'm not the one, you know, I'm more or less kind of like the person helping build it. Like my particular job was actually doing the decoration and, you know what I'm saying? Actually like putting some of the final touches on it, hanging pictures, doing this, you know what I mean? Like that was kind of my job, at least on the Hell's Kitchen part. But actually having to work hand in hand with the people who are actually kind of creating these things and actually seeing them go from nothing to something is very interesting. You know what I mean? Because I usually come in kind of at the later point of it. I'm the one who like, now you're actually seeing it, you know?
Exactly. So what would you do for something like that? Would for something like this, would you just like be grabbing a bunch of different materials to like kind of like pull from?
So actually, as far as what you're doing, as far as the costume goes, that's a whole different department.
Or even if
that would be
like,
wardrobe.
let's say you got the specs for this story, you know, and they were like, hey, build this scene or build this set or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, what would you go about it? What would you do? Like, you'd be starting to collect, you know, materials or something, or collect reference, or what would you do?
It would actually go to a set designer. So a set designer would get with the story people and just like what we're doing right now, we're bouncing back and forth ideas. The set designer would actually sit there and listen to it and like, okay, kind of get an idea of it. And their job would be to go into like a program, something like InDesign or something along the lines of that, and actually do an actual like layout or like an actual diagram.
Really?
Yeah. And so they would actually like have to come up with what the measurements would be, what it was actually going to look like. You know what I mean? They'd have to, there's actually a lot more to my pay grade going on there, where someone with like a real degree in like actual design would go in and put all of that stuff together. And then they would come to us, or they'd go to, you know, the art director or the lead man, or well, they'd go to the art director, and then the art director would go to lead man and say, hey, this is what we're putting together. They would get all the materials together and be like, this is what we need, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And, you know, we would go off of that and basically start to build it.
Interesting.
Depending on what it was, we might even do something along the lines of, okay, there's a building here, right? Let's just say something takes place in a castle, and we happen to actually have a real live castle. We'd probably go in there and make modifications to it. You know, maybe like put a wall up in a certain place, or probably get like all the decorations for it. You know, maybe we're going to be putting like a chandelier over here or some lamps over here. And that would be our job, is to do that. And we would kind of visualize, all right, like what exactly is the vibe going on here? What exactly it is that we want to depict in here? What do we want the audience to feel? What was the color going to be? What is, you know what I mean? Like, what time period does this actually take place?
So they'd give you a brief, or they would just send it to the person, and then the person in charge of you guys will let you know.
They would let us know. They would brief us. And then we'd have to, you know what I mean? Like, we'd have to go down the line of people like approving, you know what I mean? And then putting them in. It's like, yeah, this is what it is. Sometimes though, like when you're working on something like a TV show though, right?
Yeah.
When you're working on something like a TV show, it might be something that you need to make on the fly. Like it might be, you know what? We need to cover up that picture over there, or we need to Greek out these cans. Like,
what does that mean? Greek out?
So the language.
Yeah.
So,
But
for instance,
I think it's helpful for people, you know,
no,
because a
absolutely.
lot of this stuff is, you know, you know, when I was working on websites, it's like, you know, what's the
So,
difference between a prototype and a collage? Well,
right,
a bunch of money, you know,
right.
because they'll pay a bunch of money for a prototype, but they won't pay a bunch of money for a collage.
No.
So, yeah.
So to answer your question, and for anybody who wants to know, and for those who do know,
Yeah.
and maybe there's more to it, but from what I understand,
Sure.
or what I know,
Yeah, as you understand it. And that's the thing.
yeah,
We're not, I mean, we're, you know, we're both super experienced, but you know, there's better than people than both of us, and we know that, and that's why we try to get better every day, you know,
absolutely.
and we're better
So,
than people, and people are better than us. So if you know, please let us know.
so to explain it, right?
Yeah.
I have a can of Arizona iced tea here. Now, mind you,
Mhm.
we're not monetized, so showing this can isn't going to be a big issue, right?
Mhm.
However, if we were monetized and if we were like really large, or like if we were doing a lot of this for pay, which hopefully one day we'll get there, right? We'd have to Greek out this can.
What
And
does that mean?
Greeking basically means to cover up. And so
Oh, I got you. Okay.
we would have to get like a vinyl or something. So for a
Uh-huh.
can like this,
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, we would literally probably like a design like an actual can,
A fake can?
a fake can,
Okay.
and you know, put it out there. Or we would design like a completely different label and we would wrap it, and we would have to make it
Yeah.
look like it was seamless on the can. So it would literally have like this right here, but the ingredients would probably read, well, let's go over here. So the
Sure.
ingredients, it would have like maybe real facts or something,
Uh-huh.
but like these letters right here, like
Mm-hmm.
these words, like they wouldn't actually be like these words. Like, you know what I mean? They'll probably say
Yeah.
something different, you know?
Okay.
Or
And would
I
like
mean, since these are
would like a
just
designer on
ingredients,
set just like would a designer on set just like whip that up in
no,
Photoshop or
so
what?
they actually would have a team of people who are just like you,
Uh-huh.
who their only job is to create things in Photoshop, or create like labels, create,
Okay. Gotcha.
you know what I mean, like posters, this,
Mm-hmm.
that, hundreds of different things, man. And we would get it, and we'd have to sit there and try to put this on, and we would wrap this can, and
Yeah.
then we'd have it there, and it would no longer say Arizona. It would say Parazona or something
Sure.
completely different.
Yeah.
It'd probably be a different color too, different shade of green, or we'd make it
Yeah.
blue, or I don't know, something along
You
the lines of
change it
that.
all a little, right?
Yeah, exactly. If we absolutely needed to do so, you know what I
Sure.
mean? And that really comes down to, is it going to be on camera? Can people notice that it's this?
Yeah.
We have to do that a lot with alcohol.
Okay.
The easy way to fix that,
Yeah.
put it in a nondescript glass.
Oh, just like put it in a glass, like they just poured themselves a glass of scotch or something.
Exactly. Or a glass
That's
of
really
beer.
smart.
Yeah. That's the easy way around it. So if you really need a quick fix, find a decent glass that fits whatever it is you're doing. Boom, pour it in, you're done. Also on set, most of the time,
Mm-hmm.
not all the time, but most of the time, if it's like in an actual movie, and depending on the actor,
Mm-hmm.
this wouldn't actually be beer.
Yeah, for sure, because they couldn't take more than a couple takes, right?
Exactly. But there are stories, and I know I got a crazy list, but there are stories of actors who actually chose to actually drink
Mm-hmm.
to make it better for the scene. So, like
See, that's
myself.
really interesting, man, because you're talking about that job where like, yeah, it'd be just person's job on set to
Mm-hmm.
just make a fake back of a Coke can or something like that. And people watching might be like, what, that's crazy. But there's so much work like that as an
Oh yeah.
artist and as a Photoshop artist, which I use a ton of Photoshop in my work and have for years.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, I'm painting in Clip Studio Paint, which I like a little bit better for illustration, but I do mostly all my design work in Photoshop. But yeah, there's a ton of that little work that you never heard of. That's probably a ton of the work out there, honestly, is
Yeah.
Is like little stuff like that. I had one of my professors was talking about how he just got paid a ton of money to make shadows.
Yeah.
Like, and I believe it, you know, just like I believe it, because there's just so much work like that. And you gotta guys, people out there, they gotta think, you know, when you're thinking, oh, like, can I do art? There's so many avenues, because there's so many, you know, like there's so many like Coke cans and different kind of cans. And there's even movie cans that have to be fake cans. So it's like, it's so many things you never even thought of. And in art and in design and stuff like that, we get paid for hours. I mean, in illustration, it's a little different because you got to finish it all the way through in the smallest amount of time, because you're paid by the project. But when you're paid by the hour, you're
It's
just
the
paid,
same over here too, for the most part.
But when you're paid by the hour at a creative studio, you're just paid for like iteration, like time, like over and over and over and over, just like more ideas, more stuff, more different versions of that stuff.
Yeah.
Even if it's a fake Coke can, you know what I mean?
Even
like,
if it's a fake Coke can.
But there's a ton of money in that stuff, you know,
There
and that's people's real career, not even just jobs. That's like people's real careers is doing that kind of thing. So
I want to
get the work where you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to say this one thing as kind of a well, it's not really a secret. It's very well known, but for anyone out there, especially for the young people, because I'd have actually thought to pursue this earlier.
Yeah.
Right. This is something that I feel like I could have easily just went into and probably been further in this career, you know?
Yeah.
And don't sleep on it. And it seems like demeaning work, but I promise you it is not. And if you're really about wanting to try to get into the entertainment thing and really wanting to possibly work on set, work on movies, work on TV shows, work on this, work on that. I mean, there is a lot that comes with it, and there is a dark side to it. But don't let those stories deter you from even attempting to try it. And that is, be a PA, be a production assistant. Yeah. Because honestly, you don't even have to know anything about art at all.
And that's the
creative.
Yeah. And that's the same advice for anyone trying to get into any kind of art, any kind of illustration or entertainment art. I would say is like, just get an entertainment job, because it's two different things. You want to be an artist, but you want to be an artist in the entertainment business. Get into the entertainment business. Yeah. Then just do your art all the time.
Yes. Until somebody sees it.
And someone will see it. And the thing is, if it's good, someone will notice. Like if you're on your break and you're just like sketching things in your notebook and it's like good. And I don't mean it's like it's okay. Like, and I don't even mean like time wise. It means you put 100% into it for you know a handful of every day for a handful of years. Mm-hmm. Then people will notice. And I don't even mean a long time. Like you're a PA and you're doing that every day and sketching on all your little breaks, sketching the set on all your little breaks, sketching your like little ideas on all the little breaks. You do that for 3 straight years, you will get a job. Yeah. And 100%. Someone will look over your shoulder and be like, hey, that's pretty good. Do you mind doing it for the job? And, you know, and once you get that experience, but I totally agree, you know, just get in if you can. And a PA is a great way because it pays, even though it pays 100%. Terrible, college is expensive and that pays not, and it pay, and PA pays good. PA pays good compared to paying a ton of money for college. I'll tell you what.
Absolutely. And I'll also tell you this, man, PAs make great money.
Do they?
Like, oh yeah. I mean, if you're consistent and if you're on top of your game.
Have you ever been a PA, James?
I've been a PA a couple of times.
Oh, really? Okay.
Absolutely. 100%.
I never have.
Yeah.
I do think it's the best. I do think it's the best.
A lot of people say that, you know, before you actually start getting into one of the crafts. Mm-hmm. See, I didn't take the route of doing PA first and getting into a craft. Sure. I took a different route, and which is probably a better route, to go work for a prop house. Work for,
that's a good one too.
Yeah, work for a prop house, work for, you know, anywhere that that rents out the stage equipment or any kind of equipment, lighting equipment for entertainment, because that can get you further. Like, you know, you might do that for a couple of years, but while you're there, learn the equipment, understand it, learn how to use it, talk to the people who come in, and you will start to get hired more than just a regular PA, because you actually have understanding of, you know, what's going on, and you have knowledge of what's going on.
That's the second part to that advice, right? It's like the advice isn't just like go and just be a PA. I mean, if that's what you want to do that. And that makes you happy. That's totally fine. But I'm saying if you want to, like,
can take you in any different direction.
If you want to grow, then be a PA and develop a skill.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Let's just say you're good at paperwork, right?
Yeah. That's a good skill.
You just have a niche for organizing paperwork, right?
Yeah.
There's a spot.
How many sets you think need that, right? How many sets you in a set full of creative? How many set of full of creatives do you think they need someone who can do that? Right? Every single set, right?
Every single set needs that. If you just happen to be that, and you happen to know how to do art too, you're like a diamond.
Yeah, really.
Like they need that because you never know where it can really take you. Like maybe you're just really good at talking and communicating with people. Like there's opportunities for you to become like not a director of photography, but I'm having a mind blank.
Assistant director?
I've been drinking. Assistant director, yes.
Yeah.
So the AD.
Yeah.
ADs oftentimes start off as PAs.
That makes sense to me.
Because they're not to say that they're not creative, because I'm sure a lot of them are creative, but a lot of times a really good AD are people, or, you know, not people pleasers, but people who understand how to work with people, how to deal with people.
Yeah. They're people.
They're people. Like they're not afraid to tell somebody something. They're not afraid to, you know, they can work a crowd. They can, all right, people, we need to move here. We need to do this. We need to do that. You know what I mean? Like maybe you're that type of person. Maybe you're that person who knows how to talk to people.
Yeah.
If you know how to talk to people, there's a spot for you.
Yeah.
You know, but
and that's the thing is people might think like, I got to really even be able to draw really well. Maybe for like some kind of jobs you do, for like high level illustration jobs you do, but like a lot of jobs you don't, you know, and like even like, you know, I've done a ton of work in graphic design. And you'd be surprised how many graphic designers don't even know how to draw at all.
Yeah.
You know, because that's not their job. They just know like a million ways to do the letter C. You know, and that's the thing is like, you know,
and maybe that's what they get paid for. They could be like a super famous graphic designer just because they know how to do a certain type of C.
And that's the thing is I'm not hating on it at all. In fact, I'm appreciating it. I'm like, wow, that's impressive. You know, like you can do that. So that's the thing is like, yeah, like you were saying, like even if you're not quote unquote, and this is more to speaking to what you're saying, is like even if you're not a quote unquote creative type, we need tons of people like that in the creative industry.
Absolutely. And I feel like now is the time.
Yeah.
Now is the time more than any to try any type of creativity.
Yeah.
And bring that to this new world that is starting to come about. You know what I mean? Because the world is changing. I mean, the world was always changing. It's just right now is, you know, we're at this pivotal moment, and this is the time where for people to get discovered, for you to really take the creativity and make it your own, you know? And I mean, me and John, we've been talking about this thing for years, and we've come up with so many different story ideas and concepts and, you know, just things that we could have really just brought to light. And mind you, back when we were growing up, the technology was different. We didn't have computers the way this right here, this only existed in the movie we first did our first review on, which you haven't seen yet, but you will. This only existed in Back to the Future. Or
when I was going to art school, we were working on I think we were working
I'm talking about even before art school. I'm talking about like when we were at middle school and high school.
Oh yeah.
We really used to create things, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because we would sit and add long walks and come up with the craziest stories and the craziest concepts, and you know what I mean? Doing exactly what we're doing right now. But back then, and we had the opportunity to do it, we didn't necessarily snatch it up. But again, like I said, the technology wasn't there, but it didn't mean that it couldn't have been done. But here we are now making it happen. So to all the young people out there, if you happen to stumble upon this channel, just start doing it. Come up with an idea.
Yeah. And you don't got to be young either. It can be
You don't
anyone.
have to be young. It could be anybody.
And it can be at any time. I took 6. We've talked about this. I took 6 years off from art. I took 6 years off from art, and you're like, whoa, 6 years off, that's a long time. And it was a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But I took 6 years off from art because I didn't think it was going to turn into anything, unfortunately. And then 6 years later, I got hurt at work, or I got hurt so I couldn't work.
Yeah.
And I really thought, well, I'm going to just really try to do this art thing. And I went to a comic convention locally and showed people my book, and they hated it and they ripped it apart, and they told me every single thing I needed to do a good book. I spent months working on that book, and then I was a full-time artist within right after that, and I've never had another full-time job since then.
Nice.
So that's the thing, is you can be at any age, you know. You can, as long as you. Here's my thing: is like, you just like, you got to believe in yourself.
You got to believe in yourself,
and you got to go at it 100%.
100%.
Because if you're going
110%.
Because if you're going at 80%, you're probably not going to get there, and I'll tell you why. Because the magic happens at 100%. The magic happens when you're thinking about it, talking about it, being about it all the time. Then all of a sudden you run into someone and they're like, hey, do you want this fantastic opportunity? And you're like, oh, okay. And,
right?
And
like, hell yeah.
It might sound surreal, but it's really true. And me and you, we both worked on projects that, you know, would be dream projects that that we would never have ever thought we could have worked on.
Right.
And for me, I spent in those 6 years that I wasn't doing art, I was super duper broke.
Yeah. Hold on a second. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
In the microphone?
Just a little.
My dog's freaking out. Well, he's not freaking
your dog?
out. He's dreaming right now.
Yeah.
He's creating a story of his own at this moment.
That's cool.
Babida. Come on. Come on. Get from under here. Go. Go. Yeah, I just woke him out of his slumber.
But yeah, that's just to say, you know, try at art, because you might be successful at it, you know.
Hell
and the thing is, you know, I never really made that much money when I wasn't an artist, and being an artist has been really good to me. So I'm just, you know, that's the thing. Don't count yourself out. You might fail at what you don't want to do. You know, that's a real possibility out there, people. So just do what you want to do.
Hell yeah. And any idea you have, you know, find the right moment and speak it. Just like I have an idea as I'm sitting here watching John color in this this girl's costume. You see where you see that WW right there?
Yeah, you like that?
No, actually.
You don't like it?
I don't. Actually, I was sitting here thinking to myself, I was like, you know, I feel like this needs to be more it needs to be more to where she's from, right?
Well, we're not really there yet.
We're not there yet. So it's kind of a filler, but I have kind of an idea.
We can't really put
explain it completely the right way.
We can't really put the sauce on it till we have it all done. Now just roll with me, because here's the thing: most people don't have the imagination to go all the way through with it.
Yes.
You cannot picture it all the way through. So if you guys can roll with me, I think you guys are gonna understand where I'm going with it.
Okay. No, I'm ready to see it. And here's the thing: it's okay to have a difference of opinion of someone.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people in their creativity, they really want it to be what they visualize it to be, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to take a back seat, or you have to just really kind of sit back and listen to everything else around you. You know what I mean? Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't need to be the way that you're saying it, but be okay with accepting, you know what I mean, criticism, really.
Yeah.
Like that's what it is, you know? And mind you, the person who's telling you who's giving you the critique might not know anything about the art at all, but
yeah. In fact, most of the time,
best ideas from.
In fact, most of the time they won't. And that's the thing. And this speaks to that, is my first natural reaction was to tell James to let me roll with it, and he did. But that said, thinking about what he said, the note behind the note, and that's always what you artists should all be looking for, is the note behind the note. Because because even if someone's saying something, there's probably something else you're not thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking of that, we need to make this a little more to where she's from. Let's make this into something.
Let us. Now I'm interested.
Right? Like maybe it's a LA Dodgers thing from when they won the pennant or some shit.
That's dope. I like that idea. Now remember, one of the things,
that's a better idea than I could have came up with because it's a better idea. There's no reason.
So it's funny because in my mind, I was thinking of something like putting it, kind of taking the flair of the original LA and making it into an LS because it's the Lost City. However, your idea kind of really speaks to where we're at within the time, right? Because remember, one of her things that she has, there's a name for it, and forgive me, I've been drinking beer tonight, so my brain's a little fuzzy. That's all right though. There was an heirloom that I wanted her to have, which was something that the mayor had. And you know, when they elect mayors or things like that, they usually get some kind of, not always, but there's always some kind of pin, some kind of ring, some kind of this. And within her family that they passed from generation to generation was that ring connected back to her earliest that she can remember ancestor. Mind you, we can think much further than that because we're living in the 2020. And that's what I think is so dope about this world, is that we have all the history here that we already know that has been written within our time, right? But try to think forward, you know what I'm saying, after this catastrophic event has happened, this basically world-ending event, and pick it up 1,000 years down the road. Yeah. Like, imagine the possibilities. And imagine the things like how we're finding, you know, dinosaur fossils and, you know, things from back in the time that paleontologists, they go into the ground, they dig up all these things and then they get information. Well, imagine what we're finding 1,000 years later after these events have happened. So that actually makes a whole hell of a lot of sense. Maybe that was something that's a part of her story. Maybe that's part of the heirloom. You know what I mean? Maybe that's part of the family crest.
Here's something I was thinking. I'm not, you know, we can go either way with it, but I kind of like it. What if she's got the key to the city?
That's dope.
That's something that they give out, right?
We'll have to look that up. Do your research too, people. We're just spitballing ideas off of things that, you know, we've kind of heard and kind of read, but mind you, we will go back on ourselves to make sure we understand what we're talking about, you know? And if we say something wrong,
I think they give out keys to the city. I think they give out a key to the city, you know? Mm-hmm. Not to the mayor, but the mayor gives them out.
Yeah.
But see, that's the kind of cool thing. Because in 1,000, exactly. He probably just had a bunch. Yeah. And in 1,000 years, there'd be so many things that are lost in translation.
Exactly.
You know? But see, like this thing, I was thinking, look at this. These are like BMW hood ornaments made into her earrings.
I like it, dude.
You know? Because they wouldn't get it.
I love it. A BMW hood ornament. You know what I like about that is also the idea that possibly Elon Musk survived this whole entire thing. Because I feel like if there was ever anyone in the world who was going to survive, I swear it would be that dude.
Yeah.
He's chilling on Mars somewhere. But I feel like what's so dope about that is that all of these other car companies, all of these other competitors and this and that, like maybe Elon Musk has his own city somewhere that he has all of this technology that he's kind of created necessarily, you know, more or less for himself. And now,
wait, so he's immortal? Well, this is 1,000 years in the future.
Oh yeah, this is true.
Or it's his kids or something.
It's his kids or something. But remember, I came up with the idea that because truthfully, there's nothing impossible in a story. Mm-hmm. Remember that. It feels like you're limited, but you're not. Whatever thing you can imagine can be real in this story. If I wanted Elon Musk to be alive 1,000 years later, because he's figured out some way, or maybe somehow this comet that hit the Earth somehow gave him some special ability to just continue his work, then maybe he did. Maybe Elon Musk himself is alive 1,000 years later.
I mean, he probably will be.
And he probably will be. And maybe it's some kind of...
He was already talking all that stuff about how we're like super close to putting like a human brain into a robot, into an AI brain.
Yeah. Maybe
at some point why he knows that? Because he's building it.
Yeah. Maybe at some point in time, like throughout this new world, he's figured out exactly how to do that. Maybe he survived the comet. Maybe he figured out a way to jump through time a little bit, and he's been able to give his teachings to some other people. You know what I mean? Maybe some kids of his own, maybe just some people who are just huge followers, maybe his own, like, people he already works with. I don't know. Any of those things could be it. And, now he's lived 1,000 years. You know what I'm saying? And he's created his own city. And basically, if you want to own any type of vehicle, and maybe he's the elite, maybe there's a city where there's just only elite people.
Oh, I like that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah.
Very Star Trek.
Exactly. There's a city within this new world that is only elite people. Maybe all those tunnels he was talking about building, man, where people could travel. He's figured out exactly how to do it. And with the way the new world is, it was able to give him a new way to create a new system, and he's done it. Another character for another time. But how it relates to her is that she's living in, she's living in this time where she only knows so much. And granted, maybe they know about this elite city. Maybe some of these people know about them, but they're
the way I think of it, she's
from these times.
See, the way I think of it, she's part of this elite city. So this is
could be.
So the way I was thinking about it, and this is kind of a way some people like to organize their art and organize their reference. When we're thinking about stuff like this, you're gonna want to get stuff that like you're thinking about. So right now we've kind of just got it to a grayscale painting. So we still have a lot of stuff to go on. Some of the notes that are separating it so far are these BMW earrings, this key to the city, LA Dodgers thing. We still have a lot of other stuff to stylize, but that's okay. It's gonna take time.
Yeah.
But then so these are some of the things we were talking about earlier, James and I, when we were talking about gathering reference and gathering information about what we were trying to make. Yeah. And it goes back to what James was saying about research, and same way he's researching with writing and researching the way all this information. I'm researching that same thing with visual information. And whether you're doing illustration or animation or graphic design or any of those arts, even special effects, what you're doing is, even though there's not, they'll be like, oh, there's no real rules. What they're really trying to say is you're more trying to tap into a shared visual language that everyone kind of picks up on. At least that's what I interpret it as.
Absolutely.
So this is the kind of things that I kind of focused on. California, the flag of California, because she's essentially the queen of California. She's the queen of Los Angeles. Los Angeles. Yeah. So we were talking about Rome. So this is a picture of old, ancient Rome stuff. And so what does this say to me? So this says to me that people wore a lot of these cloths, robes, that kind of thing. They wore a lot of earth tones. They also wore a lot of reds, which is actually really probably authentic, because Italy in the Renaissance times was known for like having heck of fabrics. That's why there's so many like beautiful fabrics in all their paintings. They had the great reference for those.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was in the Roman times, but I couldn't see why not. I mean, they had tons of dyes and stuff, from what I understand.
Absolutely.
Then I was thinking, like, okay, if she's from, in the Roman idea, who's the Roman woman you think of? I would say Aphrodite, or I mean Venus. Excuse me. I would say Venus. That's just a guess.
Yeah.
You could say something else, but that's what it said to me, at least. So I looked up Venus, and this is what Venus looks like, according to this sculpture. And again, what this showed me was this kind of clothing, this kind of drapery clothing, this kind of robes. And then I looked, and this thing, though is very different and modern, kind of reminded me of something. This thing, and if this was not a pants but was a dress, would kind of remind me of stuff they're wearing here.
Absolutely.
So I kind of wanted to bridge that with my mind and use all this reference, and then you let it all filter out. And then it turns into something. And then I thought, of course, of these people, the Kardashians, because who's the king and queen and princess of Hollywood besides these people, right? Am I right?
Right. Absolutely.
So
Can't watch anything without seeing them somewhere.
And what do we get from here? It's actually, when you really think of it, it's not all that far off. I mean, it isn't. It isn't. But like, yeah, this flowing gown, this thing, if it was like in a beige tone, would be back then no problem.
Yeah.
And then this thing, but it's all just variations on this same thing, but as a long dress would probably be back then. All these things. This thing, definitely. I mean, if it was just cut in a different way and maybe without the arms.
I mean, I'd say even with the arms, or maybe the arms speak to a different time period. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But you can see that it's not all that far, and you'd be surprised when you're looking at all this stuff. There's common shared elements, and it's because these people are not designing from nothing. Or not these people specifically, the people who design their clothing, whoever designed these clothing for them. They're tapping into this, into that. They're tapping into the visual shared language of history.
Absolutely. If you've never seen it, you can find it on YouTube. It's called Everything is a Repeat.
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal little documentary, really showing you everything.
Yeah.
All art is repetitive. Us as artists, we take from what we see. And basically from what we see is taken from history. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And mind you, we put it into our own twist and put our own ideas out there. Every artist, it is all the same thing. Everything you watch that's new, everything is recycled to some degree. Every story is recycled. Like, when you really break it down, like, stories have a bare bone frame that.
Well, what do they say? There's only two kinds of stories, right? There's either a magical magical frog in a regular kingdom, or a regular frog in a magical kingdom. There's only two kinds of stories. I mean, I don't know if it's that close, but it's not that far. There's an element of truth to that. And and that's the same thing here. Like, what is this really? These are robes.
Yeah.
Like, they're just drapes. They're just clothes. They're just robes.
They're just cloth.
Just cloth.
Some type of fabric.
Yeah.
That are wrapped
this one might
around
be sparkly, and maybe that's what will translate to our actual image.
Yeah.
That's a good thing to notice. Where does it differ? This is kind of sparkly. So maybe we'll include some of those older tones, but include this thing kind of is almost already what we're looking for in a weird way.
And what I love about it is it really speaks to who this character is, as far as what if they kept any kind of traditions within and where they lived.
Yeah.
Right. These are the type of things that you might see.
Exactly.
I'd imagine. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm wrong, but we don't actually know.
And then this thing I Googled. I just Googled futurist. Futurist is like a way of thinking. I think it's from Italy.
Yeah.
But I know Walt Disney was a futurist. And he believed in like a futuristic society, man, full of like led by artists and scientists and future forward thinkers. So this is kind of like what I would. This is just reference I pulled that kind of embodied that idea that this is what it would be like. This is what it would be like for a small amount of people if the like if in 1,000 years that Roman, because let's look at the things that are similar between Rome and current day, for instance, the United States.
Yes.
So they're both huge military powers.
Yes.
They both have huge economic disparities. There's the rich of the rich with the super opulent, and then there's the poor of the poor. In Roman times, who could only have, I think it was bread and wine.
Yeah.
But so this is kind of like the natural extent of that. That's like, whereas like these people are so advanced, the small amount of technology that remained, they were able to store and get the right scientists and make a holdout and like grow this place. This place is essentially, I don't even know what it would be. It'd be like Silicon Valley, but in Los Angeles or something. Maybe it's Silicon Valley because it's all California, you know.
Maybe within the Lost City, right?
Yeah.
Or within the city of Los Angeles, there is this, and then the rest of it is impoverished.
So you beat me to the point. To beat me to the punch, because our last image, if this is how it is for this small amount of people, then this is how it is for most people.
Yes.
So this is how it is for 80% of people.
Absolutely. And what's interesting, going back to that Elon Musk thing, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe Elon Musk only gave a select few people within this new world. And maybe his name's not Elon Musk. I mean, I don't know. We could keep it that way. We could not. I don't know. It's a work in progress. But let's just say that he was able to figure.
I'd probably change it just so you didn't get sued.
Yeah, no, 100%, dude. And that's the great thing about, creating a world is you can take a character and base someone off of, these characters, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And this is nothing to Elon Musk at all. I'm, you know what I mean? I don't know the man personally or anything like that. And I'm sure I'm just a fan. I'm just a fan. there is no other way to explain it. But let's just say, right? He built these cities, and maybe within this new world, right? Like maybe there aren't really actually cities anymore, or they're like they're cities, they're villages, they're you know what I mean? You could really break it down. I think
you got something going.
But maybe there's only certain points within this world that have these particular things, or maybe the Los Angeles, right?
Yeah,
Los Angeles City is you've got this one capital that's like that the futuristic one, and then the rest of it is, it's got levels of impoverished stuff.
Oh, I like that.
And then like further somewhere in like a whole nother country, I don't know, we are going to develop a map for this.
Yeah, I think that's what you were saying, right? That was like that's what you wanted to do.
Yes, I want to create a map, and in which we create this map and we build this world, and out of building this world we create the story, because I have no idea what the story's actually.
You know who did that was Tolkien.
Who was Tolkien?
Tolkien, the guy who wrote Lord of the Rings. So he wrote the whole thing about like that whole world way before he wrote that story.
Yeah.
So that's why
it makes sense.
That's why that story's so good.
Yeah, because
yeah.
I think you're going to say exactly what I'm about to say. Within developing this new world, these new cities, these new people who live in these cities, you come up with the idea, you do a little bit of research, you look at how other things are, and you can take from them and develop something new, and in which from there things start to connect. You know what I mean? Like stories start to connect to each other, and you can just build from there. You can create any type of adventure you want, multiple adventures, you know what I mean? And you are so detailed because you know so much about one particular thing that it just makes the story so cohesive, I
agree. That's what they say. They say with writing, like over explain one thing and don't explain one thing at all.
Yep. And I'm no professional writer. I've written a couple things, nothing that's really been made, but just in these particular times, I feel like this is the time that you guys are seeing it straight here.
And that's probably something
Raw
that a
and
lot of
uncut.
people go through is like, you know, because people who are artists are artsy people, right? So like
Right.
so people out there, you might not just want to draw, you might want to write, and you might
Yeah.
not just want to write, you might want to dance.
Yeah.
You might not just want to dance, you want to sing. And my advice is to pursue all those things,
Right.
because I had a lot of trouble like sticking to one thing, but that didn't slow me down as much as just not going 100%. Because I can like illustration, and I can like graphic design, and I can like animation, and there's a million hours in the day for all that stuff.
Yeah.
But for, you know, I don't know, something I wouldn't want to study like math and science, it's just hard for me. You know.
But you need math and science.
But you need math and science, kids.
You need it. It's important. It's important. Yeah. For instance, you know, as we sit here and talk about science, to create this world, is it even plausible for these things to happen? Now, mind you, your imagination is unlimited. There is no cap to your imagination. However, you need to make your imagination work. And within science, it helps bridge that gap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, are these things plausible? And I'm sure there's some kind of scientific study showing it one way or the other. Or maybe it's just not at all. Maybe it's just complete fantasy. But there still needs to be a little bit of truth somewhere hiding in there, you know?
Yeah. So we've got this to, you know, I would take it farther in real life. If this was like for a client, for a job, I would take it a lot farther. But I would say for where we're at, it's actually really good.
No, I love it, dude.
And then so we're going to just hop on with some quick color and see what we can do.
Let's do it. Let's do it. In the meanwhile, while you get ready to do that, I'm going to have myself another beer. If you're out there and you're drinking with us, or you smoking with us, or you're doing whatever you're doing, or you're just sitting here.
Yeah, make yourselves at home, people.
To us talk a bunch of shit. Hey, make it happen. Cheers.
And let us know anything in the comments. You know, if there's anything you guys want to know, any questions. That's usually where the best stuff comes out.
Absolutely.
Is from what you guys are thinking about.
If there's anything you want to tell us, maybe that we got wrong, if there's just anything that's on your mind, you don't like the way that I look, tell us.
And maybe you're even, you know, maybe you're a young person asking for help, or maybe even you're a professional who's got something to offer, or maybe you disagree with us. Just let us know. We don't mind. Let us know. You know, we're willing to be educated as well. We don't mind.
Hell yeah. There is not a single thing a person can say, you know, I don't know, just as I've been coming up in life, man, I've just completely started to understand that I want to talk to the person who 100% disagrees with me. I want to talk to that person with that opposing view, because there is something to be learned there. And if we can all start thinking that way, I promise you, man, the world will be so much of a better place. 100%, because we're all different. And if we understand that, we could be that. But different conversation for a different time. But it really relates, especially to here and to what we're talking about, because, you know, especially as artists, it's very hard for us to take criticism. It's very hard for us to hear an opposing view on something that we might have. And I feel like that is so important, to be able to listen to someone tell us something we don't want to hear. And
that's the thing, because you know, James is my friend, so when he's saying something, I'm like, oh yeah, just, you know, give me a second to work on it. But if it was a client, I would just say, okay. Or if it was my boss, I would just say, okay, you know, and I would think it over. Yeah,
it's so funny. I was working on a movie set. What was I working? I think I was working on what the hell was the name of that movie? Gloria Bell. I was working on Gloria Bell. And the art director was talking to the director or something like. There was something going on where they weren't necessarily having a disagreement, or they were trying to work something out. And I had an idea, and I wanted to tell my idea, right? Because I felt like, well, this would definitely help. But there's a time and a place for everything, right? And especially us as creatives, we want our ideas heard.
Yeah.
And there is a very fine line in when you are not the director or the art director, and in which your opinion is going to matter.
Yeah.
And so you have
and maybe that means you just got to freelance for a while.
Maybe that just means you got to freelance for a while.
Maybe that just means you got to freelance for a while, because it takes people a while. Sometimes it takes people a while to learn that part.
Yes,
and I remember when my first gigs and my first projects, I was telling people how to do their jobs, and I was telling writers how to do things and how they should be presenting to me. And those clients don't want to work with you again.
No. What do you mean? You want to tell me how to? It's like I'm paying you.
Your job is to make sense of it.
Yeah. When you're getting paid, it makes things a lot different. If you're doing things for free, then I feel like, okay, you could put your opinion in. But at the end of the day, if you're getting paid, not to say that you can't say something, just find the right moment.
Yeah, exactly.
The best time?
Don't fight for a bad idea.
No, the best time. I'll tell you the best time. The best time is when something has to be done like now.
Yeah.
We need now. I need this done. And you have something and you can figure out something on the spot and you get it done. That's when they'll be like, oh, I love it. That's it right there. So now, mind you, they're probably not going to praise you a whole lot, but they will remember.
And they'll hire you.
That's
the praise.
That dude right there, he can figure some shit out quick.
Yeah, that's the praise you're going to get in this job. Everyone's so nice in this job. The only no's you'll ever get is that you won't get jobs. I mean, the only mean thing you'll ever get is that you won't get jobs. And the only nice thing you'll get is that you'll get jobs and friendships.
Yes.
And that's kind of it.
That's it. That's it. Hold on, I'm gonna be right back, man.
Yeah. I'll talk to the people while you're gone. So in this situation, what we're doing here is we're kind of just getting all these things fine-tuned. Normally I would take it a few degrees, like this kind of area where it's getting like kind of more done is how I'd kind of try to get it to all the way. But tonight, I don't think we'll have enough time. But there's a lot of stuff you can do with this. Usually the reason I'm going to the grayscale painting is because most of the time people will jump straight into a color painting, but the thing about color is color can be really difficult if you're not understanding what you're doing. So if you come in here and like I'm shading with this color, or we'll even make it easy on people. We'll use a real skin tone. So we'll use something like this, a real skin tone, and that'll look pretty good, right? But now to make that darker, a lot of people think you just go straight down and then maybe you do something like this, right? But it actually doesn't, already with those two tones, it doesn't look that good. Why is that? Because that's not how color works, So color actually probably goes more like that, where it goes down into the right, down while getting darker, losing saturation, or something like that. Truth is, I don't even know it that well. Here, so this is what I do: is I would take all these grayscale layers, and if this seems a little hacky, you'd be surprised how much of it is. You'd be surprised how much art at the beginning is hacking it all together, and you'd be surprised how much art at the end when you got it. I feel, at least I've heard from people, a ton of it is hacking it still together. So it's the name of the game. So just hack it, man. Figure out ways to hack it. And when I say hack it, just like put things together that look good to save you time.
Oh, you were talking to the people.
I was talking to the people.
You're talking to the people. Hey, this one is if there happen to be any of my G&E brothers and sisters on here, or even my art department people. Cheers to y'all, man. But especially G&E, because you know what's up.
What I did in this situation is I combined all the grayscale layers into one solid layer. This is something that will happen when you get this stuff is like it'll all start to mush together, which kind of sucks. So
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna bring it back out. We're gonna do this, and then the reason is because you start to get that effect because the computer is just having the program just starts to have a problem understanding paint from like where the edges align,
Uh-huh.
from where you're painting to where you're not. So here we go.
So what color are you starting with?
So this is what I would do. This is so I'm just gonna walk it through just like how I would do a painting. Please, if anyone out there knows how a better way to do this, please let me know.
Yes.
Because I'm always down for an easier, better way to figure all this stuff out. And like I think what James was saying earlier is the thing is art's better and your art is better when you don't have an ego.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then we're all
100%.
just kicking it and playing. And you know, when I'm working on a project, I might get the 43rd revision. I might get the 243rd revision. So you got to just understand that's part of it. You know, when you're working on the clock, when you're working by the project, like on a freelance job, then you got to speak up for yourself on how to get it moving and get it done.
Yeah.
If they want to redraw stuff, you probably got to recharge them. But when you're on the clock, you know.
And when it's your own,
yeah,
like what this is,
mm-hmm.
you can take as much time as you want.
So we see right here, it's grayscale. It looks pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I just doubled it and then cut the I just essentially copied and pasted the same image into and then put a multiply layer on it and made it and dropped it to like half. That's color burn. That's linear burn. Those don't look as good. So we'll just stick with the multiply.
Yeah.
Cool. And you might say it's a little dark. It doesn't really represent great tones. And I'd agree with you, but you almost kind of want to leave it a little, in my experience, and everyone's different. In my experience, you want to leave it a little dark, because when you bring the lights, it'll, you know, I have a tendency to paint with a lot of lights.
Yes.
So it's easier. So this is what I would do.
Painting with light is important.
So this is what I would do. I would pop a new layer on top. I would set it to overlay. You might set it to a color layer, and if you use Photoshop. I have a great skin palette. I don't know. There might be a way for me to like post it, a link to it or something, or like a download of it, like a JPEG.
Yeah, maybe we'll leave a link in the description down below.
It super helps me, and I think it's like the most helpful thing. And it's not just like, for me, it's not just a skin palette, but it's like also a master palette and like a palette for all kinds of stuff. And I'll show it to you guys right now.
I'm actually kind of excited to see this.
So this, though it doesn't look great, is where all the magic happens, surprisingly. But this is it. It seems like nothing, but it's the key to everything.
Yeah.
So this is how we would do it. Okay. So we take this like kind of like a purple layer. Okay. Maybe we bump it up and then make it a little darker. I don't know. And I've heard conflicting things. If you guys know anything about this, let me know. Some people say not to use any cools in your shadows, and I've heard that multiple times. But for me, I don't know. I like to put it like a good purple layer down because I think that it really makes good skin tones
mm-hmm.
when you take it all out. So I'll show you guys how it'll look.
So just as much as everybody else is learning something right now, I'm learning something right now.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we have this layer, go to overlay layer, and we see something. So on the same overlay layer, you grab all this stuff from the skin palette. I'd grab some red. And this is all because we're going to cover it all with paint. But this is all just because this is kind of how skin is.
Yeah.
Like it's got it, like, you know, what is it called? A subdermal scattering, something like that.
Okay.
So it's the scattering of light under your skin.
Okay.
So it's because it doesn't, because that's why you have like a purple and red kind of hue to you. It's because of the blood going to and from your arteries and your veins.
And that makes a whole hell of a lot of sense.
So then we go blue, and then we go green. This is kind of the secret because it cuts a lot of that stuff. And even right there, this isn't a skin tone, but it looks like it's close.
It definitely drastically changed it. You know, it's very interesting because while I don't paint cartoon figures, but I do a lot of Photoshop work and as far as retouching and
that's right,
actual, you know, photos and things like that. So it's interesting because when I'm doing like a retouching, or maybe I want to give like a glow to someone's skin or make it a little more tan than it is, I will do a very similar method just in Photoshop.
with the levels.
Yeah, with the levels of like adding maybe if I want to make them warmer, I'll give them like an orange tone to or orangish red tone, or maybe a yellow tone, depending on what skin color they already are.
Or maybe, I don't know if you want to make it, I'm guessing, but if you wanted to make it pop, maybe you put blues in the shadows and oranges in the lights or something.
Absolutely. I also use a lot of dodge and burn too.
Cool.
For, you know, giving, for instance, I don't know if you can see it within the camera. Hold on, I need to point it. So if you look at my face, because mind you, I got this camera going on, but you see this hot spot that's on my head.
Yeah.
But if I really wanted to really blend that in, and, you know, maybe I got a photo. Well, this is dabbling more into photography world than it is for that.
No, I think it's helpful though.
Yeah. So I would dodge a lot of that out, or I would like maybe try to, you know, blend in this the skin tone. And mind you, I'm more of a visual person, so when I verbally explain it, sometimes I don't explain things all the way.
No, I think people are following.
I always say people, I could show you better than I could tell you.
Yeah.
But
well, I think a lot of us artists are like that.
Yeah. So but in very similar fashion to the way that you just did her contrast on her face with, you know, and you could just see it a lot more now that you're adding color to it. And it's definitely giving it more definition.
So I just want to show, I totally agree. And I want to just show everyone what happened just now. So what happened just now is I just basically blended a purple layer, and that purple layer is going to depend on how dark everything's going to be around it. So that's going to take some mental thinking.
Yes.
And then I use this bad boy, the red, a little dark red. These are just red mixed with black all the way down, orange mixed with black all the way down, green mixed with black all the way down. So I use like this one, and then I use like this one, and then I use like this one. And I use it till they look good, right?
Yeah.
And then I go back in, and then I use this one.
So wait, not to cut you off, but are you basically like creating your own color almost?
Yeah.
By blending those together?
Yeah. And so what I did was the overlay layers, I just dumped a flat color. And with the undercolors of green, red, and blue, I just airbrushed the color softly onto it. So it doesn't got to be hard. And then I use these two skin tones at the end. And this would change based on different kinds of characters. The underlayers are always going to stay the same, though. And look at that. It's almost like magic.
Almost.
It's almost like magic. And then this is when people start to get interested. When you start to see stuff like this, and you're like, man, that was a lot of work. But the thing is it hasn't been that long. And, you know, depending on how much you get paid for one of these painted concept art. But for me, you know, the concept art that I've done, actually, I didn't even ever paint any. I just got paid for tons of pencil drawings.
Yeah.
Because there's money at the bottom. And, you know, and you might think like, oh, I don't want to do the work that's only like 20, 25 bucks for a drawing. Well, I would get those and I'd do 10 or 15 of them, you know? in a day. So there's definitely stuff that you can do. And I mean, if you're doing this thing, it hasn't even been that long. And I mean, you know, if you could get a client for this, you could sell it.
Absolutely. And you know what? You don't even have to be as detailed as what you're doing here. You can, you know, have very abstract art.
Yeah. Whatever you make, there's a knack for it. But I would say learn that thing.
Yeah.
Learn that thing
Be
completely.
really good at it.
And there's also practical stuff. Like I know a lot of abstract stuff. They get into graphic design because you can use a lot of those abstract principles in graphic design. And in fact, a lot of the graphic design you see is based on a lot of abstract art from the 80s.
Yeah.
A lot of that geometry and that handcrafted look that's coming back now, that's definitely from the 80s. You know, you use all this Photoshop work, so they want it to look handcrafted. Even though it's not. It's Photoshop.
Exactly. Yeah, whenever I do Photoshop work, I feel like personally, one of my niches in it is making things look as realistic as possible.
Yeah.
Like as natural as possible.
Exactly.
Unless I'm doing like a sepia or a tint or something along the lines of that. Some like way out fantasy type shit.
And then I used to think, you know, when I was doing animation, I used to think, oh no, I don't need to look at life. But even when you're doing animation, you have to look even more.
Yes.
You know, and all this stuff, there's so much reference for it, you know. Often when people are starting out, they're like, oh no, that's not my style, but that's not real. Like you still, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not just about what you're trying to do. It is about tapping into that shared visual language.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And it's also about, I mean, if you want to get work, and if you want to get work, you got to present it in exactly the way they want. That is huge.
It's all about presentation.
Yeah, you want to work at Disney, do your own character. As a concept artist, you do your own characters in a Disney style. You know, on a bunch of them, and have all the ideation and all the thumbnails and all the turnarounds and all the stuff.
Hey, you know what's crazy? What you just said is very important. I'm gonna put an artist on blast. I have a friend, me and the wife. Yeah. We have a friend. Her name is Shanna. Shanna, I'm gonna put you on blast if you ever happen to watch this. You spoke about Disney characters, right? Mm-hmm. And doing your own thing. Shanna is a phenomenal artist. Teacup something. What is her name on Instagram? I gotta look her up. It's Teacup
Pig. Just kidding.
Hold on a second. No, I think you'd even appreciate her work. I think I showed you her work.
Yeah, you showed me her stuff.
Hold on, I gotta find her. Oh, laced teacup.
This is getting somewhere.
Right? So look, I'm going to show the world of painting. You guys have never seen this before. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe someone has kind of a concept of it. I doubt it though. I was going to speak to John a lot about the lighting and the shading and everything that he's actually got going on within his drawing here, because that's very important, even if you're doing an actual lighting for, you know, on set. Mm-hmm. And the same way that you would do it in a drawing. And it's interesting because I feel like a person who draws would know light very well, that they'd be able to place light, you know,
I bet,
within this, you know what I mean, within this environment, this whole.
Well, you know what I was thinking? That's probably why they have a lot of storyboard artists.
Exactly. And that would make sense. I'm reading from my handbook here. Mm-hmm. Set lighting technician handbook.
Oh, tight.
That would teach you. And I've got tons of books like this.
Nice.
It's very important.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do anything in the lighting world,
yeah,
this is definitely a handbook to go through. And I mean, if you're just gonna be involved in art in general, look, We've got color theory concept, but like
That's so
just,
huge.
Just understand it. Just
understand it.
Just
Research
have
it.
an understanding of it. Research
Find out about
it.
it.
Just you know what I mean?
Don't be afraid to find out about the stuff you're interested in.
Exactly. But hold on. To bring your own characters to life, right? To bring your own ideas. Just because they're Disney characters doesn't mean that they can't be changed and you can't put your own twist on it. And I'm about to show you that right now. Hold on one second. Go ahead. So this might be too big, and I can't hear what John's saying if he's saying anything.
I'm not saying anything yet.
Because I don't have my headphones in. But it might be too big to actually put in all of the screens. So I'm going to show you a little bit of it.
Cool.
Oh, no. It's perfect.
Cool. That's really cool.
Look at that. So what I want to point out here is this is done by Lace Teacup. I'm going to put her link in the description if you want to check out more of her artwork, man.
Yeah.
She's going to be mad at me, but it don't matter because her art needs to get out there. But she has her own characters. She does Deadeye princesses.
Disney stuff?
Yeah, Disney stuff. And this is her own concept of, you know, her own take on something that is already created. So like John was saying, you know, Disney wants to see these type of things. Maybe Disney doesn't necessarily want to see this, but another company might. You know what I mean? Another company that delves in this type of art actually, you know, they're like, whoa, we can create a whole new thing of this, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe buy the rights from Disney. So
and I was really like did that all the time. When
amazing artwork.
I would send that is amazing artwork. And the thing I would always do is I would send the wrong portfolio to the wrong company.
Yes.
I would just be like, this is my best, 10 things here. And that is not the way to do it.
No.
Because that's probably not what they're looking for. And I never would have got like my great graphic design jobs with a illustration portfolio, and I wouldn't have got any great illustration jobs with the graphic design portfolio.
Yes.
That's just an example.
I'm going to put this artwork back.
Hold on. Sure. So that what we're doing here, guys, is we're just still refining. I mean, we gotten to pretty good to the color level here. It's actually I'm pretty pleased with it so far. It's coming out right. The thing you're always worried about at this stage is like that the skin tones aren't going to work, but so far it's looking pretty good.
Dude, I love what you've got going on right there.
Thank you, man. Yeah.
So I was going to talk about lighting.
Yeah, please.
A little bit within what you've got going on in your photo. And it's just very interesting because it's like coming from a person who's done light. Now, I'm not the best in lighting, but I understand it. And sure. What I really like about what you've got going on, you've got a nice rim light going on right here.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and
that's
so
the 3/4 light, right?
That's the 3/4 light. So if you look at where the shadows drop within her face, see, these are things that you'd have to understand it, even coming from a person drawing this would have to understand that. This is how it would actually look. Let's say she was a real person. You know what I mean? And she was an actual actor, and
sure,
we're filming her, and we're filming this thing, right? Like we're past the story part. We've got it all developed. Now we're creating a scene. You know what I mean? Yeah. And what's very interesting about this, what's very interesting about this particular picture within itself is the light that you have her in. So what made you come up with this particular light? Because you could have done, I would say this light is dramatic, but you could have done it even more dramatic. You could have done a more sidey light, you know what I mean? Where it just has half of the face, you know what I'm saying? And that would add another element to the character.
Yeah.
So where did you come up with the idea to just do this particular light?
So I like these because I like 3/4 light because you get a lot of great halftones. Also, I'm a big fan of this little triangle that you get with that kind of lighting. I don't know who said it
lands on that cheek.
Yeah, I don't know if it was. I forgot who it was. It was someone famous.
Mm-hmm.
One of the greats who super liked that triangle, and ever since I saw that, I love that triangle. It's probably my favorite lighting is 3/4 lighting like this from a straight view. Maybe I'd also like this view. I kind of like this view with the head turned.
Nah.
You know, and then
Okay,
like
that
maybe,
makes sense
and
because
maybe
her head
lights
is
coming.
definitely
Oh, sorry.
dead on.
And then lights coming this way, and then you also got that square.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that triangle. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, 100%.
So again, I like that kind of light too. But I like 3/4 light. I like that triangle. It's visually interesting. You know, I probably rely on it too much, but I like it, you know.
Yeah, I love it for the picture that you have going on here. It's interesting because, like, if we were actually doing a photo shoot, I mean, kind of as a rule of thumb, if you were shooting a woman, you never want to shoot her straight on. You always want her turned to some.
Yeah, and even Da Vinci said you wanna paint a woman like this, like looking down to the side or up to the side 3/4.
Absolutely.
To the left. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Up to the left or down to the left.
Absolutely. So, for the people out there thinking about doing different, these are just all different ideas to think of when you're creating, you know, your art piece.
Yeah. And I'd say for people out there, like when you're like, oh man, like where do I start? You know, that's the question, right? Where do I start?
Yeah.
You start just painting, man. You start just painting or drawing just for hours, as long as you can from life. At least that's my advice.
Nah.
Just paint from life. You want to do a realistic style, you got to study life all the time. You got to draw from life all the time. You want to do animation, you got to probably do it even more.
Mm-hmm.
Because you got to know how to push it and stylize it. And in my art career, I'm probably only getting to that point where I can kind of stylize it without breaking it. But even then, I'm not great at it, you know. So and it took a long time to even try to get going with realism, or like, you know, passing realism, which is what I would call this stuff, you know.
Nah.
It's like you're passing with realism to create this effect of an impactful illustration.
Yes. Dude, that shit is. I love what you've got going on here because I can really see this character actually coming to life, and I think that's what's so amazing about what we have going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
And what I really want to push to the world, and understand that, you know, we're sitting here, we're talking about, we're writing the story and this and that. Mind you, these are the very beginnings.
Yeah.
So you really get to see and take this journey with us.
Yeah.
And see where it develops into. You know what I mean?
And you know, what's his name? George Lucas, when he was doing Star Wars, they kept drawing and redrawing and redrawing and rewriting and rewriting and rewriting. Mm-hmm. So this art part is part of it. You know, especially at a studio where they're gonna have the budget for it. Mm-hmm. They're like, dude, just keep drawing. Just keep drawing.
Yeah, just keep it going. And mind you, it would be really good. So if you are a creator and you don't know how to draw, but you have really good ideas for stories.
Yeah.
I would suggest, I don't know where you'd find them at, but if you happen to know anybody who draws, if you've got a really good friend, like having these camaraderies with these people, you know what I mean? And, you know, anyone that you know that has kind of a talent for something like this, get together and see what you guys can develop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
and here's the thing, though, a lot of people, time they sleep on, it's like they'll be like, oh, you know, all these people are great at art, and that person who's thinking that, who's not as good as art, might be like the best salesman of them.
Exactly.
And you might just need to, and everyone else can't sell, and you just need to put yourself take a step back and be like, you know what, this is my best role, is to do this. You know?
Exactly. It's a team effort.
And for those people,
when I was in art school,
we're
probably about to say almost the exact same thing. When I was in art school, they say, they had a little saying going on in there. You know, you're on a professional set when everyone has a role to play.
Yeah.
And it's not, this person is 3 different things.
Exactly.
That's when you know you've really made it. When you have an actual director who only directs. When you have an actual lighting person who all they do is do lighting. When you have an actual concept artist who all they do is come up with the concept art.
Yeah.
You know, and everyone plays their role.
Exactly.
Because it's a team effort.
Yep.
Because all of this is collaboration. Every single movie you've ever watched, every single everything. Now, it's not to say that there aren't some really amazing student films, and there's some really amazing independent films.
Yeah.
That where they have lower budgets, so it's really hard for them to get these things. But it's really all about collaboration, it's all about like being able to work with each other. Now you're gonna have differences, but I think that's where it comes into play, where you got to understand yourself as what your role is going to be as an artist in this. You know?
And I think you will agree with this, James, is that whether you're, you know, in any kind of aspect of art, there's going to be a time where it's like really, really a lot of work. There's a ton of time that's downtime. I think just art and the nature of it. There's a ton of time that's downtime, and there's a ton of time where it's crazy amount of work.
Yeah.
And
non-stop pounding work.
Yeah. And all those people who are like, oh, I wish you'll get your, if you try hard, you'll get your wish at that, you know?
Oh yeah.
And there's a ton, and you know, and you're nice and you're a good person and you're trying to do the right things and you're trying to learn in a good way. You will get those opportunities, I think, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for anybody who's on the other side of this, for anybody who is in the movie side of this, understand this. And mind you, I haven't been in the movie business forever. I've been in it for about 5 years, which 5 years is still a lot of time.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Compared to some of the people that I know who've been in the movie business for 30 years.
Yeah. And I've been in the entertainment art business professionally for about 7 years.
There will be times where our job is so different is, you know, people might be used to having a break, having lunch, having that. One thing I'll tell you in the art world, and even when we're on union sets, and mind you, we're supposed to have these breaks and we're supposed to have this, and most of the time we do. And most of the time it's cool, you'll get these, but there are times.
And most of the time it's even better than normal. It's like you'll get like extra, you know, you can get like extra bonus.
Sometimes a lot of our job is sitting around.
A lot of times
waiting to do something.
A lot of hurry up and
those times are great, but then there are times where it is non-stop. 14, 15 shit. Sometimes 20-hour days of just whatever it is you're doing. Work.
And that's when you got to really realize that you love to do art.
Yes. That will put you to the test, man.
You know, and I'm sure, and if you do, then it'll be no problem, you know, because for me, I love that time. And that's the time where the best ideas come out.
Absolutely.
You know? So.
Dude, this picture is really taking on a life of its own, man. And I love what you've got going on here.
Thanks, man.
Like, it makes it more exciting for like, oh yeah, we need to start really creating a story. We really need to start making a map. We really need to start doing this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in the meantime, while I'm sitting here, I think I'm going to take some of this lined paper I got right here, just a regular notepad, man. And I'm going to do kind of like a rough idea of what the world actually might be like.
See, that's cool. And seeing that reaction that you have, James, that's one of the best parts of my job. It's like, you know, is having some writer be like, oh my God, I've been thinking about that for the last like years of my life. And now I've seen it, you know, and now it's real. And like you said, like, usually it doesn't stop people. It's usually like the catalyst that they're like, no, I gotta get this. I gotta do something with this, you know?
Right.
And I've worked with all kinds of writers. I've worked with like all kinds, and that I've worked with writers internationally from all different places over the United States, all places over the world. And I've worked with them on different levels. I've worked with staff writers. I've worked with award-winning writers. I've worked with first-time writers, all at various levels of skill. And I would say the thing that got the ones who got published, it was just that they got them published. That they tried really hard and met with a bunch of publishers and just kept meeting with them until someone published it.
Yeah. And it's funny because while we're doing this and we're talking about writers, and I've written some great things in my personal opinion. One of the best ones, the poem that I wrote, Just Fly Legend. One day I'll tell you guys that. I'll link it down below or something along the lines.
Yeah.
But I don't consider myself a writer. Like I don't write professionally. That's not what I do professionally. It's just I feel like writing in any form is a way that you can get your thoughts or your ideas out onto a piece of paper and they can develop into something. You know what I mean? So it's not so much that you have to be a professional writer to do something like what we're doing.
Yeah.
Me and John, we've known each other for a really long time, so we just kind of work hand in hand.
Yeah.
So we're making it, in my opinion, I feel like we're making it look easy. Like, oh, this is just how it's done.
Yeah.
But you know, it's funny that he says that and he mentions it and it's like, well, it's amazing to hear writers say, like, oh, this is exactly what I've been thinking of because I didn't even know if this is what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
I mean, we literally sat for maybe about an hour and just discussed some things.
Exactly.
And we just spitballed ideas like what we've been doing on this entire thing. Literally just spitballing things. And this is what you're seeing on the screen right now is what came out of it.
Exactly.
You see where it says Sky. We didn't even mention the fact that her name is Sky. And
why was that? I thought that was really cool. The reason you said you had for that.
All right. So Sky, where I came with the name Sky, in a little bit of my research that I was doing the night before when I conceptualized the idea of this world, one of the things that they talked about that would happen during, you know, a catastrophe like that is it would go back to long winters and long summers. There would really be no in between. There would be no spring. There would be no fall. There would be no this. In the very beginnings, the cloud of gases and dust and debris that would come from that would shoot so high in the sky that it would literally create and cascade like a blanket where it would be a lot of night. Now, from what they said in there, and if I'm wrong, and if anybody knows the real answers and remembers any of this, I mean, please tell us below. But they said it would last for maybe roughly around like 30 years or so, or give or take, something along the lines of that, right? However, while it would eventually go away, the weather and the atmosphere would change. Like its pattern into what it would do would change. And so we start having longer summers and longer winters, where it would just be an extremely cold and it would be an extremely hot. In my mind, Sky was born on a night, or it could be day, it could be night, but Sky was born during a time where it was night, because the thing is they hadn't seen the stars in a long time. And I was also kind of thinking on the play of, since LA is so smoggy anyways.
Oh, I like that.
That it basically, they can't ever really see the star. One of the things about the new city that we're seeing is that they can never actually see like the stars. They can barely see them. They can barely make it out. It's always covered by some kind of new clouds that have formed. You know what I mean? And Sky was born on the one night, the clearest night that they had ever seen in several hundred years.
Yeah.
And she was born on the clearest night. And so they named her Sky.
That's cool.
And that's where I came up with the concept with her name.
That's cool. And I think that's the cool thing. It's like just doing that next level world building, you know, not just like, oh, this person, you know, like not just like, I don't know, not just like info dumping that like this is a place, but why is it important?
Yes.
What is distinctful about it? Yeah. And that's what it's going to come down to. That's a lot of the times. And you know, I think it's because people will see what's chosen on TV, and a lot of times those things are like the safe designs. But what they really want is like for you to push designs to make
push it to the extreme.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because as we sit here and we talk about this character who we've developed, we still technically don't know who she is.
Yeah, who is she?
Like, who is she? You know what I mean? Is she our antagonist? Is she our protagonist?
Yeah.
We don't know. Is she the villain?
With each
is she
color
the hero?
choice, you kind of wonder.
Maybe somewhere in her life, she's both.
Yeah, could be.
I feel like in Game of Thrones, and for people who don't like Game of Thrones, I hear you, man. I love Game of Thrones. Personally, I thought the story was amazing.
I put a lot of investments in that movie. I did not like the ending.
Yes. And I'm sure a lot of people will agree.
And I think like many people, it fell off at a certain point.
It did fall off at a certain point.
Yeah.
I will say this though, I just rewatched the entire thing.
Oh yeah, how was it?
Every time I rewatch it, I get something new from it, and I start to understand where the writers were coming from and why they made the choices they make. Here's the thing: you're never going to please everybody, and no matter how they ended that show, people were going to hate it.
Yeah, probably.
Because there were a lot of people who wanted to see a lot of things, and they can't.
A lot of different things, right?
And the thing is, and here's the thing for any of you writers out there, and here's the thing for anybody trying to tell any type of story: you can't please everybody.
Yeah,
you cannot.
I wanted Jon Snow and Daenerys to end up together.
In a weird roundabout way, I did not.
Yeah. No, I don't. I believe that.
And the only reason why, because they were relatives, and that's my only gripe with it. Yeah. You know what I mean? And they didn't know, and sure. I guess within their storyline is like Targaryens had been breeding within their bloodline for years, but I don't know. I just go on the societal norms that says that it's wrong.
What do you think
and
about
maybe
that?
I'm wrong.
What do you think about this? What do you think about this going on?
You mean the color?
Yeah.
I like it.
It's too blue.
It is too blue, but here's the thing.
But it's an LA Dodgers thing.
It is an LA Dodgers thing, and granted, that kind of technically would have been their color.
But see, we gotta age it.
That's exactly what I was about to say. I was gonna say, where's the age to it? You know what I'm saying? Exactly. It's 1,000 years old.
Exactly.
Like, maybe how did they keep it? So, and maybe they made modifications to it. Maybe they added their own little thing to say.
Maybe there's like a little of this, like a little like rust and distressing.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, definitely some rust, some distressing, some chips. Definitely pieces of chips in there. Maybe the ink would have faded within the LA itself. You know what I mean? Like maybe it was a laminated thing. Maybe they kept it to LA, but they added their own little twist to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something.
I like where it's going.
We'll come back to it.
We'll come back to it. And see, sometimes when you get stuck on an idea, right? Like you have it, it's there. You've come up with ideas for it. It's like, okay, I've tried a few things. Here, let me just go over. Like, take a break from it for a second.
Yeah.
And then as you're doing something else, you might realize something like, oh, I know exactly what that needed, you know?
Exactly.
Hold on. I'll be right back.
Sure. So what we're doing now is we're just kind of finishing on up this painting. This is probably, I would take it, much farther if I was working on it for a real job or a real client. But for me, it's looking pretty good. I've used a lot of those undertones to blend well into the skin tones. Yeah, it was not too much more to go on. I mean, at this point, it's just a lot of rendering. It's a lot of just making it look better, revising. And we're probably a little too bright right there, and a lot of keep going back and keep going forward. It's looking all right. And just being like really aware of how much color we're dropping there, because it looks a little unnatural. Yeah, so this is getting pretty good. I'd probably go a little farther with it normally, but at this point, at this point you might just go over to color. And using this as like kind of our underpainting. People are familiar with underpaintings. Yeah, I think this works pretty good. Making some kind of looser choices here, but
I am back.
I think it adds something. Also thinking a lot of LA colors. She's the queen of LA.
All right, I'm back in the game.
Cool, cool. Again, maybe that's too bright. Go back in with some purple, mute it out.
Yeah, I love it, dude.
And there's a lot of going back and forward, like your natural reactions, like, oh, maybe that's like this color, and you're like, oh no, it's too bright. But your instinct was actually probably right. It's just probably too bright.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just got to go in there and cut it a little, like, fade it a little bit and whatnot. And then we're here. And then we're pretty much wrapping up. So like we'll just do this. At this point, I've done a new layer because there's only so far you can kind of go on overlay before it just like kind of mutes it out. So we're going like here. And we'll probably wrap this up in the next 15 minutes, which is cool.
I love it, dude. I really enjoy what we've accomplished going on here. More specifically, what you've accomplished with this whole concept art for this character that we've thought up literally out of thin air.
Yeah. It's a trip.
But just with a little bit of information, it just goes to show you of what you can accomplish. And so it really goes back into, why we're creating this channel at all. Now, mind you, we have many things to come because we definitely are going to be doing movie reviews.
Yeah.
We are definitely going to be doing watch-alongs. We actually have a couple of them already done.
Yep.
We got some things on. We got some things getting ready to come to you guys.
And then,
we definitely want to be able to get some people to come on to the show, maybe join in on a Zoom call, give their thoughts and opinions on anything movie related or entertainment related or art related, really.
Actually, I have someone lined up for our next meeting.
Really?
Yeah, my friend filmmaker Garrett Rich. He's a award-winning filmmaker for. I think he won the Oakland Film Festival.
Really? Okay, I love it.
Yeah, he's an independent film guy. He's been to Sundance, a bunch of times. He's a smart cat. He's a good dude. He's my friend. He has a lot of interesting stuff to say about film. And when I told him about the thing we were doing, he was really excited.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I told a couple of the guys that I've got going on, in the film industry, some of the people who've been working in this business for 30 years.
That'd be great.
With huge IMDb records, man, that potentially want to come on the show, say a couple of things. I know some people who just want to get involved in general.
Yeah, exactly.
Want to get involved in the idea of this, but we got some people for y'all, man. So we're definitely planning on.
I'd like to get my friend. I'd like to get my friend from Netflix. Over here.
Anybody in the professional industry, man. And again, I've got a few people. If you want to come on and join the show, if you want to just anybody out there that wants to come on and talk about, maybe you do something, maybe you're in the industry, maybe you're not, maybe you want to get in, maybe you have questions and you want to come join the show, man, hit us up.
That'd be great.
We're just starting this thing off. We're starting this during this quarantine time. This is the time where we all really need each other, and all creatives, not even just creatives, but just anybody that's just ready to, come together and have a conversation.
Also my friend Ryan. He does voice acting for Netflix, and he does voice acting for anime.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure he'd love to come on.
Yeah, 100%, dude.
But yeah, that's our thing, like we're all kind of just creative people, and we just want to make a cool place for people to hang out and talk, and for other creative people to come and watch and see what we're doing and see what we're working on, and really just come and hang out for a while, because all our jobs are really is we get to we're fortunate that we get to play.
Yeah, definitely. I love this idea of what you've got going on, of showing your work, and the sense of you drawing this our character, and then painting her and making this. Maybe one of these times I'll jump on and do like a photo retouch, like we'll do something completely on another side of things. Maybe we got some photographers out there in the world, and photographers are big in the movie business too. Don't think just because you're a photographer that you can't get in the movie side of business, because
dailies, man.
On-set they need dailies, they need on-set photographers. Shout out, man. I got to remember what her name is. I'm terrible with names. I'm terrible at remembering things, but it's okay. I try. And I've been drinking tonight. So that's my excuse for tonight. I know what I'm talking about, though.
Yeah, and like we said, like anyone who wants to come on the show or anyone who wants to talk about this stuff, we'd love to. We love creating art. We love working on this stuff. That's the thing. It's like, when you're thinking like, if you want to do this stuff, just think if you want to do this all day. This, even though, James and I are friends, this isn't all that different from what I do in a day.
Yeah.
As far as like my money.
Yeah.
The only difference is in this situation, I'll get paid. And that's also a thing for all you people. We're when you're on the clock and we're just working on something, this is, we can just mess around and go different directions and go in different tangents. But when you're like hiring, maybe you're a writer, you're hiring an artist, just give them everything they need, like a brief, character bios, a tight script. I'm sure it's the same in the film industry. Everyone appreciates that. You want to get your stuff made, just make stuff, just make stuff that looks right. And probably no one can tell the difference.
Absolutely. Tara Violet.
Who's that again?
Tara Violet, man. She was the on-set photographer for the movie The Mustang.
Yeah. Oh, and another thing I wanted to say is, don't wait to be successful, and don't wait to try.
No.
Because when you're done with college, it's not like you're going to be successful all of a sudden. Like, it's not like that thing's going to make it. And a lot of people were successful before they even finished college, and it's because, and a lot of people were successful who don't even take college. And it's because it's not the whole picture. Just go and don't wait. Just start making stuff, making good stuff, and even if it's the best you can do, just keep doing that. And then just keep trying. You watch TV and you see how are all these terrible movies and terrible things on, because it's the best thing they had.
That's it.
How did this terrible actor get on there? Because he was there or she was there.
Yeah.
They were there while you were, at home complaining about how bad they were acting. They were there.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing on an art set. I'm sure it's the same thing on the movie set. It's like, it's like not everyone's great at their job.
No, they're not. And what's also interesting is look for the calls.
Yeah. Really.
Like they put out casting calls, they put out,
Yeah, what's that staffing site you always use? That was super helpful, right?
The staffing site. What was the name of that staffing site? I should have came better prepared, James.
Just staff me up, right?
Staff me up. That's it. Yeah. Look up Staff Me Up, man. All things creative, they posted on there.
Yeah, get some gigs, people. Get some projects. Like maybe you edit, get an editing job. Yeah, just like one little project. Yeah. That first one's the hardest projects to get. After that, it becomes a lot easier.
It is.
So we see
it truly 100% is, man.
It's looking all right.
Yeah, I actually love what you've got going on. And this is literally just a rough draft.
Yeah.
And to think that's a rough draft, because it almost looks like it's complete.
Yeah,
it's rough. And there's so much more detail that we can add to it. There's so many more things. And as we develop this character and as we really understand her story and her journey and what she's getting ready to go through, more things will be added. The greatest thing about art is never done. It's just completed to a point. But there's always more that can be done.
Yep. One of my favorite artists, Frank Frazetta, he used to go into his own museum and take the paintings off the walls and then go and paint on them. And that just illustrates your point. That's what it is, you know?
It's like, but it could have been. You got to be careful with that too, because that can always be an artist's downfall too. Tiki Jay was one of my teachers in the Art Institute, man. Look him up, Tiki Jay. He's amazing, an amazing artist. Mm-hmm. He's done shit for Disney and all kinds of shit, right? And he started off in graffiti. Like,
really?
That was his passion. Yeah, he's a graffiti artist, and he started off there, man. Shout out Tiki Jay, man. He was saying that a lot of times with artists, he would always remember like some of the best work he would see. He'd be like, wow, that's amazing. And then the guy or his friend or whoever the artist was would start telling him, it's like, yeah, but you know, that hat, man, that I put on him, I can't stand that hat. Mm-hmm. Like, I could have drawn that better. And he said by them pointing out those flaws, he would start seeing it. And he's like, well, yeah, the hat. Because they put the idea into his head.
Yeah, you never want to tell your client or your person how bad your art is.
Yes.
You know, let them.
There's no such thing as bad art.
The thing you might not like, they might not even know about, and they might not even care about, or they might think looks good. So like, wait till they bring it up. You know.
Exactly.
Because a lot of the time I'll be like, oh man, I don't even know, does this even look good? And then I'll turn it in, they're super happy. And then I'm like, good thing I didn't say, hey, like I messed up all this shoe or something. Mm-hmm. Because then they'd be like, oh, you messed up on that shoe, redo it. You know?
Yeah.
Wow, we are really close here, guys.
Nah, that shit's pretty fucking incredible right there, dude.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, go check out John's artwork, man, on his website and everything.
Yeah, please do, guys. And please check out my Instagram. Give me a follow if you want.
We are going to put a Movie Poop Shoots Instagram up. We're going to have everything. We're going to have the Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, you name it, we'll have it. Mm-hmm. We'll make sure we put it up. Maybe we'll think about moving into we'll do different live streams. I know this was technically supposed to be a live stream, but they said you got to wait 24 hours before we do it. So we decided to do it this way via Zoom call. But, you know, when we have our live streams up, we'll definitely continue this going on where maybe it'll be a live stream and you can come and you can join in and we'll have these conversations.
Yeah.
And it should be a lot of fun, man. I'm really excited about it.
And then we can do other stuff too, because, you know, like I'd love to show people how to animate. Love to show people how to do some motion graphics, maybe do some graphic design.
Yeah, definitely. And if I can find a better spot, maybe I'll try to get some lights, do some basic setups.
Oh, that'd be great.
Show, you know, grab a couple of, you know, I'm very good in with JR lighting, so I can grab a couple of equipment items. I mean, that might be a little bit further down the road, but we can make some of those type of things happen.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we'll post at least once a
maybe
week.
Build a set.
But we'll try to get as many, and we'll try to get interviews too. And when we have an interview, I'll probably still just draw something or paint something, just because it's nice to have something to look at. Maybe it'll be like a promotional thing for whatever guests we have on.
Absolutely. And maybe our guests can come on and do something for us, and then you wouldn't even have to do anything. We could just sit there and ask questions.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
And we can come up. But yeah, no, definitely as we continue going on, you know, we'll come up with different characters. We'll hopefully have come up with a map. I actually have some ideas for the map. I was sitting here, I was getting ready to draw. I haven't done it yet. I've been sitting here talking, but I know exactly where I kind of want to go and where I want to draw the inspiration from of what this world on a map kind of might look like.
And what's that?
Huh?
And what's that?
So I actually want to, taking a page from your book, I'm going to go ahead and look up some concept ideas. So I'm going to actually take a look at the actual world maps that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to take those, and then I'm going to look up a couple of other maps that people have already actually kind of made. And I'm going to kind of like basically just draw a line through where I feel like I want the continent to split and this and that. And I'm just going to look up different references on what those things might look like.
Yeah.
And kind of take and build from those.
Nice. Yeah, reference. It's always the name of the game.
Yes.
You know, everyone's just like, oh, I got artist block. Just look at some stuff and just start painting.
Nah.
That's where it's at, guys.
That is where it's at.
Okay, there. Well, we are really close. Cool. So bam.
We're very much there.
Bam. See, and then like I said, everyone, like your instinct's probably right, but it's probably too bright. Or whatever it is. And this, you're like, oh, that's interesting, but it's not really great. And it's like, yeah, I'd agree with you. That's why I'm gonna smooth it out.
Right. I'm very intrigued at the color that you decided to make her lips.
Yeah, well, I tried a bunch of them and they weren't really working.
Well, this one works very well.
That's the thing.
I don't, you know,
I think it's because of the limited palette.
You know, I don't even think of it as a limited palette. When I think of, now mind you, we're basing this character off of whoever the mayor of LA is right now. And mind you, I didn't look it up. I just came up with the idea.
I actually didn't either. So I don't know if this looks anything like the person.
But when I think of LA culture, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And I think of the Hispanic culture, the Latin culture that's there, like this to me has elements of that in there, and how they like to use sometimes like the dark lipstick. And now, mind you, I could be wrong, you know, just with the people that I know personally and the things that I've seen, it would make a lot of sense. And I feel like in a way, I know the mayor is not Hispanic, but mind you, this is a world that we're creating ourselves. It could be anything.
All right, people. And I think that is it. And that is it for tonight. This looks pretty good. What do you think, James?
Dude, I love it. I mean, obviously there's a lot more detailed things that we could put into it.
Totally.
But that's being nitpicky.
Yeah.
I mean,
and also like with that, like, you know, that's also where it comes into, you know, budgets and time, and all that kind of stuff.
There it is. Meet our first character, Sky. Is she a hero? Is she a villain? Is she both? Does she have a character arc? What's her story? We don't know. But that's what we're here to find out. And these are all concepts. And these are the very bare bones of character design and creating a story. You know what I mean? We literally came up with this idea that this is what we were going to do. This is what we wanted to do. And we figured that if we were going to tell you about movies, let's start at the source. Where does an idea for a movie even come? Something just like this. So maybe one day we might get picked up and they're like, hey, dude, we love these ideas. And maybe one day we'll be extremely famous. Maybe we won't. Who knows? But you have to start and you have to try. And we're just putting it there. So you're seeing it directly from the beginning, man.
Yeah.
So here it is. There's our first character, Sky.
That's it. And remember, people, 30% of new jobs are creative jobs. So if you're more creative than 2/3 of the people you know, it's probably a good job for you.
Absolutely. Effing blue, man.
And maybe one day
100%.
we'll finish this thing all the way.
Hell yeah. People, man, it's been a great time with you. If you've started watching from the beginning and you stayed all the way to the end, we absolutely love you, man. And you're the type of person that definitely belongs in this type of business because this shit really interests you.
Yeah.
And who knows, or maybe you're just a person on YouTube and you just happen to stumble upon it and you're just like, you know what, this is interesting, man. Let me check this out. You still might also be a person that belongs in this business. But we just want to create a place, man, where we give some information and we learn something as well. And the world needs to know, and I'm sure there's many different platforms. If you have a platform and you like us on it, hit us up. If, you know, we see any type of platforms that we feel like we would be on, we're going to start contacting people. We're just kind of getting things in the works. We're just here to get ready to have a lot of fun, man, discussing what we love the most in movies, entertainment, art.
Yep.
Shit, John, you got anything else to say?
I think that's it, man. I think that's it. If you like art, you like movies, you want to learn about them and how to make them, come on by, because we're gonna have a lot of interesting stuff.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, with James's practical knowledge and my, you know, pre-production and post-production knowledge, I think you're gonna get a lot of interesting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, especially with just this thing we did tonight. Is it the best painting you've ever seen? No, but it's interesting.
But it's interesting. I mean, in my own personal opinion, John, sometimes I like to toot my own horn. Mm-hmm. They say you shouldn't, but I do it anyways.
Yeah.
And we literally started off this day with no idea that this character doesn't exist in any story. I mean, mind you, her story, her this, her that, might be a story that you've already heard before, because remember, everything is a remix.
Yep.
But we literally just took the time out of our day, had a conversation over the phone, and thought of something, thought of a world that doesn't exist. We created it. And in that world, and from that world, we created our first character that you have now made, that people can now visualize and get a sense of who she might actually be. There's so much creativity in the world, man. We're all the key.
Yeah.
Let's unlock all the doors.
I like it.
Yes.
So what are we doing for next week, man?
You know what? I was debating back and forth on whether or not we should do another character. So here's the thing. It's either A, going to be another character, or B, the map.
I like that.
I'm leaning more towards maybe another character.
Yeah, let's do it.
But if I plan to try to conceptualize a map. When we get that, I'm going to start showing you the world that's going to start developing, man. Maybe it'll be both. Who knows? I don't know. You know what? Let's let the audience decide.
Yeah, sounds good.
You tell us what you want to see, man. Do you want to see the world, or do you want to see another character?
Or do you want to see another character of your own?
Yeah. Maybe you want to conceptualize a character, man. Come talk to John, man. Come talk to the both of us, man. Come talk to the both of us. And we'll sit here and help guide you through a character that you might want to see. Maybe you have a concept for a story.
Yeah. This would be your chance.
This will be your chance. Come through, man.
These things usually cost a lot of money, but you're going to get it free.
Yeah. So
if you watch along with us.
Yeah. So go ahead in the comments below. Tell us what you want to see. And based on whatever has the most, you know, whether it's a character, whether it's a map, or maybe it's someone who wants to come on. Well, if it's someone who wants to come on and you want to see your own thing built, we'll do kind of a separate thing to that. So for right now, let's just to kind of narrow it down. We'll go ahead and keep it. If you want to see a map, let's see, do the little emojis, right? On these things, you know. Yeah. So if you want to see the map, go ahead and do a thumbs up, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, thumbs up the video anyways. Thumbs up the video, subscribe, and, you know, like the channel, and do all that other wonderful stuff. But give us a thumbs up emoji, and if you want to see a map, do a fire emoji.
Yeah, perfect.
Love it. There it is.
All right, people. Well, have a good night. It's been a blast, and whatever you do, just keep drawing, keep painting, keep creating, keep making videos, and keep filming stuff, keep writing, and you'll be there before you know it.
Hell yeah. We might end up all there together at the same time.
Wouldn't that be nice?
It would.
All right, everyone. Good night.
Good night.